Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're actually going to be going ahead and tearing down the Xbox One S. So let's just go straight into it. So the first step to actually tearing this down is we need to remove this bottom plastic piece. Now this is arguably the hardest bit because it's the first step. But what it is essentially you have to try and essentially pry it off. Now, just like the PS4 one, this piece is really securely stuck on by a couple of sort of plastic kind of like pieces, if you like. So initially it is really difficult to take off. So I'm going to go ahead and try and show this to you guys now. So what you do is you kind of just slide in a sort of pry tool and essentially try and open it up. This way there are sort of clips that kind of like hook on, which makes it ever more difficult, but with some gentle sort of prying and gradual sort of pulling it apart, you can see that it does it does want to, well, it doesn't want to, but it does sort of give way. So just go ahead and do that and it should come apart. Okay guys, so after about 20 minutes, if not half an hour of constant prying, I finally got the black cover to come off. Now, don't worry about taking off the black cover, guys. Honestly, the black cover is really strong. In fact, yeah, it's really strong. It's really tightly held in there. But nonetheless, you've done it pretty much correctly when it comes off eventually, and you just look around and you can see that there's no loose plastic pieces, and there's nothing loose in the Xbox. You can go ahead and just give it a bit of a shake, and you've done it right when you hear no rattling. If you hear a rattle, then unfortunately that means you may have broken something, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect its performance at all. It's mostly all just cosmetic. So that's the first step, and arguably the most difficult step of it. So once that's done, what you can go ahead and do is you can get some sort of cloth or baby wipe or whatever, and just go ahead and just clean any sort of build up of dust or dirt or debris and whatnot. So go ahead and just do that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this bit off camera, and then you guys can carry on with the next step. Okay, so after you've gotten off that annoying black piece from just prying on the sides, scooping it out and whatnot, the next step is to go ahead and remove all these green screws. To keep track of the screws you've removed, I recommend using some sort of tissue. So demonstrate. Tissue's been used. So what you can do is just use, so you've got one tissue there, you've got two tissues there, you've got a third tissue there, to one side, a warranty sticker which you can put back after we're done, and a fourth tissue there. You could just use these tissues to just keep track of your screws. This Xbox is actually quite a bit dusty on the outside, so you can go ahead and just sort of remove all this to give it a bit of a cleaning, an initial cleaning. Like so. One side. So the next step is to go ahead and remove all the green screws. I believe these are T9 screws, so make sure you have a T9 screwdriver and go ahead and remove all of the green screws. I believe all of these screws are long, so they're often quite difficult to miss. In worst case scenario, if you forget where things are, you can always go ahead and just record yourself and play back everything you've done and play it back in reverse. so all hope isn't really lost. I do apologise for if I sniff a lot, guys. Just got a bit of a blocked nose. I'm not feeling too well, even despite the absurdly hot weather. Excuse me, the absurdly hot weather. Do apologise. You can always mute me. Okay, so that's all the green screws done. And once you've gone ahead and removed all the green screws, you can then go ahead and remove all the grey screws. I believe they should actually be the same screwdriver bit, indeed, which they are. Now these screws hold bits of the motherboard, some of the components to the motherboard, like the fan, hard drive, power supply, and the disk drive. So once you've removed these, once you flip it over, those components will actually come out. They will actually come out. So just be a bit careful. You don't need to be too careful, because those components are actually plugged into the motherboard, so even then the wire will sort of hold it, but you don't want to damage the wire due to it keeping it on the motherboard. You don't want to have to, pull a wire, or even worse, pull the connector. Pulling the connector is definitely very awful, because that means you basically have a damaged motherboard, and unless you're very good at soldering or very confident soldering, that motherboard is now essentially quite useless. So that's something you have to be a bit just a bit careful with. So all the grey screws are now removed, and the next step is to go ahead and remove these black screws. Now this T9 can fit, but just to prevent stripping of the screwdriver, I'm going to go ahead and just grab a T8 and use that instead. I don't want to have to deal with damaged screws due to stripping or whatever, because that results in things just being a bit more difficult in the long term. So you can go ahead and remove these black screws. And there we are. All the screws are now removed from the bottom metal cover. So now we're going to go ahead and turn the Xbox the other way around. Just holding it from the bottom, putting it down, and this white cover at the top should hopefully just come out. Just pry it up a little bit from the sides, like so, and there shouldn't be anything attached to it. Should just come out peacefully like so. And there you go. So you can see this one's a bit scary in here, because some sort of webbing and whatnot, but there's no cables attached to it. So that's of course very nice. Again, you can go ahead and just give it a bit of an internal cleaning. You can see this baby wipe gets dirty really quickly, so this console's been dirty for a little while. Say a little while, I pretty much mean ever since it's come out. You can kind of see the dirt kind of like conforms to the fans, so that's It's quite funny, I think. Got the motor here, sort of greyishness. Can wipe all this. As you can see, look, WiFi wipe just gets dirty super quickly. So that kind of indicates that, you know, maybe it's a good idea to open it up and clean it, or maybe it wasn't. You know, who knows? But I think it is, because, you know, WiFi wipe's really dirty. Usually an indication that it needs a bit of a clean. These paper wipes are really, really thin. Alright. Just go ahead and brush off the top side as well. So, I've actually been wanting to do this for quite a while, because this particular Xbox actually has something stuck in its holes at the top. So it's actually a bit of a stone. Oh, I think it's actually come out now. Can't seem to find it. It's gone. Unless if I am blind or something. But yeah, no, it's gone. I think it may have fell into the fan or something, which would be a bit annoying, but it's gone from the plastic cover, so that's somewhat good. Gonna go in and get the fan to just brush the insides of it. There we go. That's a lot more cleaner now, I think. Just go and get the big wipe one more time. Just brush through everything. Sure everything's brand spanking new. And there we go. So that's that cover done. Nice and cleaned, or a lot more cleaner than it was before. And yeah, so gonna go and put that to one side. Once you've gone and done that, you should be able to easily remove this metal component. Slide that out. Boom, bada bing. What you can do is obviously get a baby wipe again. Just briefly go through it and clean it if you like. Again, this baby wipe got dirty really, really quickly. Quite a bit of dust here as well, particularly on the outside of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and go through it, just loosen up it from these sides as well. Some dust on there. So this side just kind of acts like a cushion, but again it's very dust potent. So just go ahead and just clean it. You see, you know, very, very dirty. Even though it doesn't look like it, once you start actually putting a wipe to it and cleaning it, you'll notice that actually it's quite a bit more dirty than you think. So that's that cover done. I'm going to go and put that to one side. So the next step is to actually go ahead and remove the Wi-Fi card. So what I'm going to do is, because we've removed out those screws before, these components are now loose and only attached by the cables. So you can go ahead and just go to the side and remove these black screws. So again, these are only held by black screws. So once you remove them, you will see that the Wi-Fi card just essentially comes off like a simple connector. It's just a simple connector. So So you've got 3 screws on the right and the left of the Wi-Fi card, and then you've got another one just below it, so you've got your 3 screws in total. And it's really nice when all the screws are, you know, the same. So for example, these black ones will fit with the previous black ones that we removed, and you know, this is really dusty, sort of like a webbing dust. Hope I don't find any spiders in here. Spiders are my worst fear. You can go ahead and just kind of like group the black screws because they're not really the same, but if you want, you can go ahead and separate them just to make sure you know where they are. So you know, those are the ones that we removed from the silver panel, those are the ones that we also removed from the center panel. Silver panel, Wi-Fi card, and the Wi-Fi card just comes off, and the Wi-Fi card just pulls away like so. So you just grab it and it just comes off. It's just a simple connector. If you want, you could go ahead and get your brush and just brush through the Wi-Fi card, remove all the dust and whatnot that's on there. There we go. That's your Wi-Fi card. Nice, close and personal. So this will give you your wireless connections. We can go ahead and put that to one side. I'm going to go ahead and just leave that there. And the next one is the power connector side. Again, it's by a connector with the same black screws. This one's got 4, so you go ahead and just unscrew them. It's got the exact same black screws and it's got the exact same style of connector in that it just plugs into the console. If you've got an electric screwdriver, it would make all of this a bit more quicker and easier, but which I don't have an electric screwdriver on my hand at the moment. And this one just goes ahead and disconnects just like before. Connector is down here, so just be a bit more careful there. So connector style just as the one before, connects down there. So just like before, you got a bit of dust. Go ahead and get your brush, just brush through it. Remove any sort of debris and whatnot that may be attached to it. There we go. That's that part. You go ahead and just put that to one side. I'm going to go ahead and put it here. Now, let's go ahead and remove the hard drive. This hard drive should just flip over like so. And you've got 2 connectors that are holding the hard drive in place. So you can go ahead and do is get your fingers, hold them to the connector side of things. It should just pull away. What you can do to make things a bit more easier is hold on to the connector side on the motherboard. It's still a bit hard to remove, which is very strange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some needle nose pliers. It should make things a bit more easier. There we go. Got it to come loose. Needle nose pliers make things always a lot more easier. We've got this connector. You shouldn't really need needle nose pliers for. It's quite a big one, so there are other things that are in the way which can make it a bit more difficult. It's like before, should just come apart. This one's being a bit more difficult because you've got that other connector that's very close by. So difficult. just doesn't seem to really remove or want to come apart, which is very, very strange. There we go, it's got the cable out. Does require a bit of pulling, but yeah, so that's the hard drive. This one is a 1 terabyte hard drive, but there's also the 500 GB hard drive as well. So again, just like before, get your wipe, sort of wipe it down. Don't worry too much about it conducting electricity and whatnot, because the chances are the most likely when you put everything back, all the water and stuff will be dry, and you know, there's no risk of electric shock and whatnot, especially if you're just using water. Obviously be careful if you're not just using water, you know, any other sort of compound may have some sort of salts that you know are there, and you know, this can conduct electricity and be a bit dangerous. But anyway, being a bit nerdy or whatever there, don't need to do that. Or worst case scenario, you can just get your brush and just brush down everything. You could just blow on it. Get anything loose. You can actually go ahead and remove the hard drive as well, if you wish. This is an upgradable hard drive. It doesn't show the stat. There it is. So you've got 1 terabyte there, and yeah, so that's the hard drive. So now it's the disk drive's turn. It's got pretty much the exact same 2 cables. So you need those pliers. Grab onto the connector side of things. You can grab your finger, hold down the female part if you like, and wiggle that free. Then this one, just pull out, 'cause this one's quite a bit more secure. Again, these connectors are very securely placed the first time around, so they will require quite a bit of pulling. But hopefully your connectors are a lot more loose than mine. My ones, for whatever reason, are, you know, very, very securely in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my nose pliers again and just grab hold of it and pull it out like so. And those pliers always works, and the disk drive should just come out like so. As you can see, this disk drive is quite a bit dirty, so I'm just gonna go ahead, just wipe it down. Look at that, super dirty. There we are. This drive's a lot more clean now. I'm going to put that off to one side. And to remove the power supply, which was tightly packed in, like so. Just unfold it. Get your needle nose pliers once again. And again, if it makes you a bit more secure and happy, you can go ahead and just grip onto the plastic connector part and just sort of pull it out while holding on to the female part so that it doesn't come loose from the motherboard. They really are something, guys. They really are something. Of course, you don't want to pull too hard, whereas you might break something, but you know, it's just that it's really difficult to just see what on earth is going on here. So bear with me, guys, while I try and see what on earth is going on here. Problem is that this connector has got a lot of wires, so when you're gripping it, it might actually just grip the okay, this cable isn't coming out, guys, so I might have to pause the video and I'll get back to you when it finally comes out. Now what you can go ahead and do at this point, if your power supply is being really stubborn, is you can actually go ahead and remove these two plastic pieces that sort of just clip on to the sides. You could just remove that. I'm going to go ahead and put this here, and there's also another sort of metal piece clippy thing that is actually just there. Okay, there's also this metal piece here. You can sort of just get your fingernail under it, wiggle it out, then that just sort of comes out. I'm going to put that to one side there as well. At this point, the motherboard should be relatively easy to actually take out. Grip it by the fan and just give it a bit of a wiggle. It should come out. Ideally, the power supply should have come out by now, but for whatever reason, R1 is being very difficult to remove. I'm not too sure, so I'm just going to fold it like that, and that's the bottom cover. Oh, there's the stone. Not sure if you guys can see it, but there it is. This was a stone that was stuck in the silver grate for so long. Finally got it out. So I'm just going to put that off to one side. I will give that a clean. In the meantime, we've got the motherboard here with the power supply and the fan still attached to it. Okay guys, so after a lot of prying, a lot of researching, you really need to hold onto this side, grab that bit down, and that sort of release like a sort of clamping mechanism. I don't know why they did that. I don't understand why they can't just use a regular simple connector, but for whatever reason that's how they decided to do it. So yeah, so that's the power supply. Really difficult to remove, probably the most difficult part to remove by far so far. But again, you know, the side's a bit dirty, so you could just go ahead and just wipe it down. What you can go ahead and do is, after wiping it with a wet baby wipe, you could go ahead and use a tissue just to remove any sort of liquid or whatever that may still be left. But that's the power supply. Very small power supply. Smaller than the PS4, definitely smaller than the original Xbox One, so it's quite amazing that they managed to fit it all in this. However, it's amazing how they managed to make it so much harder to remove. So there's a plus and an upside to everything, but that's the power supply. I am going to go ahead and put it over here with the rest of the components. Hopefully it doesn't just fly down. But now we've got the key bit, the brains of the console. Flip it around. Okay, so once we've got the power supply out, we've got unfortunately another bit of a difficult part. So for this step, you're going to want to go ahead and get a small flathead screwdriver, preferably the smallest one that you have. So I'm just currently looking for smallest flathead that I've got. So that seems to be this one here. No, it's a square. So, well, not the smallest one, but relatively small one. I'm going to do another screwdriver for this. There we go. And so for this part, what you're going to want to do is get into here and there will be one of these components that will be very easy to sort of flip over. So with this part, you're going to want to be very careful and sort of just pry it up. You can see that one's gone a bit up. This one's the next one. So unfortunately, this is a very bad design choice on Microsoft's part. Don't know why they decided to do it like this. Overall, I do prefer the teardown of Sony's one, but none are perfect. Both are really difficult to remove. So that side's done. This side seems to be a bit hard. Kind of see it's damaging the screw, so it's a really poor design choice, this part. I don't know why Microsoft decided to do this, but unfortunately that's the stupid design choice that they decided to have, which is really annoying. But you can kind of see that that's how it's supposed to be, so just be patient with this part and just slowly scoop it up like so. Okay, so after a lot of prying and a lot of research, when the clamp is on, like so, what you can do is you get it, you put your T8 screwdriver in, put it in, and bend it that way, and the opposite side will come loose, and you do that to all four sides. So this was another really difficult part. Again, a really poor design choice in my opinion on Microsoft's side. But that's how you remove the clamp. I'm going to go ahead and put that to one side. And now the fan and stuff are loose. The only problem, was always a lot of problems, is that the fan cable is still connected to the motherboard. So we're going to flip it over like so. My hand's dirty now. You've got the fan connector just there. You can go ahead and get your needle nose pliers. Go ahead and just remove the connector side of things. It's difficult because you've got that stupid sort of capacitor or whatnot there, that component there. But now fan and the heatsink just come out like that. So now you can see the APU, and you can see the heatsink, and you can see the fan, which the fan is still attached to the heatsink. So that's that. I think Microsoft have securely attached these two together, but let me go ahead and see, guys. Nonetheless, now that you have the fan and the heatsink removed, you can go ahead and clean that. So go ahead and get a cloth or baby wipe or whatever you could use to just clean. So I've got a bit of a wet wipe here. Just gonna go through, just clean as much of this as possible. Just clean the outside, clean the inside. It would be nice if there was a way to sort of remove this from the heatsink. There we go. So after some prying on those hooks, you're able to remove the heatsink from the fan. Go ahead and clean it. See, this is extremely dirty. Doesn't look dirty, but again, like before, when you actually get something in there, you see just how dirty the heatsink actually is. At the bottom, I've got the thermal paste. This one is rock dry, pretty much. So what I would do is I'm just gonna flip the motherboard off to one side, get my broken pry tools, and just show you just how dry it is. So I'm going to use this baby wipe, and it should just sort of crumble. As you can see, it's going into like a million pieces. So that's how you could tell that you should replace thermal paste. Yeah, even on the previous consoles it wasn't this dry, so this is really crumbly. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yeah, it's really dry, so go ahead and just clean this off heatsink. Make sure that you go ahead and apply new thermal paste. The brand doesn't necessarily matter too much. What matters is that it's just there. But there are brands that are supposedly better than others. So for example, Grizzly Cryonaut, they tend to make arguably the best ones. There's also Arctic MX5, I think, something like that. I'm not too sure, but something like that. They do great thermal pastes as well. So what I'm going to do now is get a bunch of cotton buds, get some isopropyl alcohol, and use that to go ahead and clean the heatsink as well as the APU. So we'll just go ahead and get your cotton bud, just wipe it off. Because this thermal paste is really old, it's kind of like glued itself to the heatsink. So this might actually take a bit of a while. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use the Q-tip to just like soak it up. The alcohol. Hopefully we can use this side to sort of scrape it off. Because again, this is plastic, so it's not going to damage it in any way. Well, I hope it wouldn't damage it. So again, wipe this up. Here, just do the same thing. Kind of see just how hard it is. So it's really difficult. So that bit's pretty much done. It's just to dry it off. I think that's about as clean as this is going to get. There we go. So that's the heatsink. I'm going to go ahead and use a brush of sorts. Just brush through heatsink. Just to make sure that it's really clean. Brush is going to come out looking like a crackhead. It's okay. There we go. Heatsink's done. Let me just sort out my brush. We're trying to sort it out as much as possible. Yeah, so that's the heatsink and the fan. You can also go ahead and just sort of go through and clean as well. That's the fan. Just get your brush in there. Just try and like sort of clean it as best as you can. It's difficult because they've got this stupid outer blade as well, which kind of like blocks it, so it's a bit more difficult to clean, but hopefully you guys can see. Just get in there. Again, this will take time, so if you have to move your finger every little bit as well. You can see just how much dirt there is on each blade, so it's quite a bit. There we are, the blades look a lot more cleaner already. Just want to go in the middle, just try get in there. As much as I can. So that's me just cleaning stuff up, guys. I'm gonna stop the video here just because it's already so long. I didn't expect it to be this difficult or take me this long to do it. But this is the complete teardown of the Xbox One S. I will get back to you in a little while, or maybe the next day or two, to carry on with the reassembly. We also need to go ahead and just clean the APU and apply new thermal paste to that. But this is the complete teardown. To get down straight here, apply the thermal paste, clean the fan and whatnot. And so in the next video we will begin the reassembly. So hope you guys enjoyed the video so far. If you helped it useful, obviously like, subscribe, share, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the reassembly. Bye.